24 teams to go on my road to predict all 131 teams this college football offseason. Moving on to the Fresno State Bulldogs as we wrap up the Mountain West Conference. We got 2 conferences after this, guys, and that is it. But Fresno State is on the chopping block today, and what a season it was for the Bulldogs in 2021. Had their coming out party, lots of good talent, offensively, defensively. One key part from this team last season is gone. And no, it's not a player, it's a coaching member. And more specifically, the most important coaching member, the head coach, Kalen DeBoer, took the job over at Washington. Yet, a lot of names still come back on this team. So can Fresno State win a Mountain West title in 2022? Or will Fresno State take a step back as they are under new management? What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate, and welcome to my channel. I'm predicting all 131 teams this college football offseason, and chances are I've already done your favorite team. Way you can find out, hit the subscribe button. I have a playlist on my channel homepage that you can go search through and find your favorite team. But if you come back, and in case you haven't found your favorite team, hey, no worries, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell so you know when that team gets uploaded. And for fans of the Fresno State Bulldogs out there, you guys are going to know this team a lot better than I do. So if you feel like I missed something, you want to add something, leave it in the comment section down below. I'll be happy to read what you guys have to say. So let's talk about Fresno State in 2022, my top first-ranked team in the Mountain West Conference this upcoming season. And again, their coming out party was last year. Pulled off some upsets last year. This was a really, really good team. Pulled off some upsets, as I just said. We're close to pulling off some more. They were 10-3, 6-2 in conference, and yet we're this close to making the conference title game and just got beat out by a really good San Diego State team a season ago. But Fresno State was really good last year, especially offensively. 464 yards per game with around 33.5 points per game. But defensively, this was also a good football team. 342 yards per game with 20 points per game allowed. They were good offensively, defensively. This was a good football team last year. And I think they're going to be a really, really good football team again. And something that isn't getting talked about with this Bulldogs program, I think this is a sleeper team that if you don't really like anyone in the American, or maybe BYU isn't speaking to you, if you want to go off the grid, put some money or whatever, make a bet with your friends on someone to make the New Year's Six bowl game, out of the Mountain West Conference, I'd pick Fresno State, and I'll show you why. But let's look at what they're losing first. They are losing their leading rusher from a year ago in Ronnie Rivers. Had 788 yards and 5 touchdowns a season ago. Also a depth guy in Jordan Wilmore, only 77 yards and a touchdown, but no one besides Ronnie Rivers and Jordan Mims, who comes back. Talk more about him later. No one besides Rivers and Mims got over 100 yards rushing a season ago. So you do lose one of your 700-yard rushers from last year. In the wide receiver position, you lose Carrick Wheatfall, who was the 3rd leading receiver on this team with 616 yards and 4 touchdowns. And a couple offensive linemen gone there as well. But on the defensive side, well, the place where this team got hit the most was that defensive line. They lost 2 pretty good starters and a lot of depth. Aaron Mosby and Kevin Atkins combined for 13 sacks, 81 tackles a season ago. Numbers are pretty evenly split there, but those are 2 big losses on the defensive side. But otherwise, you just lose some depth guys in Ryan Boehm, who had 23 tackles last year, Evan Bennett, and Kwame Jones. Evan Bennett had 14 tackles, Kwame Jones had 13 tackles a season ago. In the linebacker group, you lose Tyson Mava, who was a top 6 tackler for this team last year, at 44 tackles and a sack a season ago. In the defensive back position, you lose Deron Bland, who had 45 tackles, 2 picks a season ago as well, and then Wyland Free and Deontay Perry, a couple other names that are gone as well. But hey, what do they have coming back? Well, they almost didn't have this player come back. Jake Haener almost followed Kalen DeBoer over to Washington, but decided that he wanted to stick around for the Fresno State program. By the way, the new head coach for this Fresno State team is Jeff Tedford, familiar name out there. But Jake Haener coming back to this program at 4,096 yards, 33 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions a season ago was phenomenal for this Bulldogs team and should be phenomenal again in 2022. And as mentioned, their other 700-yard rusher in Jordan Mims comes back at 710 yards, 6 touchdowns, and I do believe he is the better out of the 2 running backs between Ronnie Rivers and Jordan Mims. Why? Well, Jordan Mims, higher yards per carry average on almost 40 fewer attempts, did have more touchdowns, and I think was overall just a little bit more effective overall than Ronnie Rivers. I do like Jordan Mims, but they also returned their best wide receiver in Jalen Cropper, who had 899 yards and 11 touchdowns. Did have 2 rushing touchdowns last year as well, but it's what he can do on the wide receiver end that's really special. You also return your second leading receiver in Josh Kelly, who had 778 yards and 3 touchdowns a season ago. Zane Pope, Ty Jones, some other names that are coming back should be prominent in this Fresno State passing attack. But Nico Remigio is a name coming over, I believe a transfer over from Cal. That's going to also play a huge part in this offensive scheme. A couple tight ends coming back as well. Raymond Powells and Trey Watson are coming back on this team as a little tight end duo there for Fresno State. But they're going to rely more on the wide receivers than the tight ends. And having a guy like Jalen Cropper, even a guy like Josh Kelly come back are big, big hits for this team. On the defensive line, well, depth I think is going to have to show out a little bit, but still 2 solid players coming back on the defensive line. That's David Perales, who had 7 sacks a season ago, and then Leonard Payne, who had 3.5 sacks a season ago. In the linebacking group, Malachi Langley, Lavelle Bailey, and Tyler Mello, a couple names you'll see coming back there. Malachi Langley and Lavelle Bailey, 2 top 3 tacklers for this team a season ago, and Bailey even had 2 picks last year. Evan Williams, who was the leading tackler for this team, had 90 tackles and led the team with 3 interceptions. In the defensive back position is coming back, along with some names like Elijah Gates, some other names coming back as well. But coming into this team is a guy by the name of Cam Lockridge, who was pretty stellar at his past program and will be coming in to help out this Fresno State secondary and give them a little bit of a boost. Fresno State, I think they're going to have a really good offense yet again this year with Jake Haener there, Jordan Mims at the rushing attack. They have lots of talent at the wide receiver position. Defensively, I think some of their depth is going to have to show out this year, but this should still be one of the better defenses in the Mountain West Conference. As we take a look at the schedule this upcoming season for Fresno State. There are some tricky games on the schedule, more so in non-conference play. But non-conference play, you start out with the game against Cal Poly that they should be able to win, and then is where the interesting game starts. So you got a home game against Oregon State here. Now, Oregon State is a team that is getting better and could have a coming-out party this year if everything can go right and be a sneaky contender in the Pac-12 Conference. But the real challenge coming out of the Pac-12 Conference as well is on the road against USC. I mean, I can throw out a list of names, and I can talk about USC, about this USC-Fresno State matchup for 5 minutes. I'm not going to do that, but hey, Fresno State-USC, going to be one of the more intriguing matchups there in Week 3, and you also have a road game against UConn, a team that is looking to improve this year as well. Conference games, you have road games against Boise State, the game everyone has circled on the Mountain West schedule. Also road games against New Mexico, UNLV, and Nevada. Games at home against San Jose State, San Diego State, Hawaii, and Wyoming. So kind of diving a little deeper into the schedule. Cal Poly, UConn, I do think should be 2 easy wins for this team. Yes, UConn on the road, but and UConn is getting better, but UConn still is going to be nowhere near the level of talent that Fresno State has on this team. No, the 2 interesting games in non-con are the games against Oregon State and USC. Look, Oregon State, again, as I said, is a team that is improving, can have a really good season in the Pac-12 this upcoming year, but Boise State also plays Oregon State, and I like what Fresno State has on this team. I think Fresno State has a better chance to beat Oregon State than Boise State does. I know a lot of people are picking Fresno State to lose that game and then are picking Boise State to go ahead and beat Oregon State. But Boise State's got to go on the road. Fresno State has them at home, and I think Fresno State's a little bit more of a talented team than Boise State is. Just my opinion. But speaking of which, then you have to go on the road to play USC. That's just going to be a tough game. I mean, Lincoln Riley, Jordan Addison, Caleb Williams, Mario Williams. I mean, I could just list name after name after name after name that USC program is bringing in. That's going to be one of the more talented teams and one of the more explosive offenses in the nation. That defense is going to get tested early this year. Then, again, once you dive into conference play, that road game against Boise State, everyone's circling. Why? It could be a conference championship preview game right there. Very well likely could end up being the 2 teams in Fresno State, Boise State, that play again for the conference championship game. But there are some other games that are going to factor in there as well, especially that home game against San Diego State. Look, that's a game that very well might decide the division in the Mountain West Division. So That's a game I'm going to be looking forward to on October 29th. Otherwise, there are some sneaky games like Nevada on the road. Don't discount them. Even a game like UNLV on the road, don't discount the Rebels. I think they have a chance to pull out some of the closer games. Wyoming, I know they lost a lot of talent, but that is a Wyoming team that can make games competitive this upcoming season. San Jose State, same thing. They can make games competitive this year. Lots of little tricky games here for Fresno State, but I think they more than have enough talent to be able to cope with those. Now, I don't do game-by-game predictions. I do a more percentage-based outlook to help me predict the team's record. So if the game is in red, I just don't see you winning the game. Game in orange, still necessarily don't see you winning, but it is college football and upsets can happen. Yellow are your 50-50 or high upset potential games. Games in yellow-green are games that you should win, but hey, you got to watch out for the team on the other side of the ball. In games in green, I have you winning. So Cal Poly, I think that should be a win right there for this Fresno State team. When you look elsewhere, I do have UConn as a win. Again, I don't think the Huskies are going to be as good as Fresno State in 2022, but the Huskies should make their fair share of improvements this upcoming season. San Jose State, after a coming out party in 2022, kind of a disappointing year in 2021, or excuse me, a coming out year in 2020, a little bit of a disappointing year in 2021, but hey, that is a San Jose State team that I like coming into this year. Still think Fresno State, getting them at home, should be able to pull off that win. New Mexico, I don't think is going to be a very good team, should get that win. Hawaii, they lose a lot off last year. I think Timmy Chang's going to need a couple years. And then those last three games on the schedule in UNLV, Nevada, and Wyoming. Look, I think all three of those games, Fresno State cannot take lightly. They're going to provide their most interesting challenges. But those are teams that I don't necessarily see being at Fresno State's level this upcoming season. When you take a look at the games that are in orange and yellow, Oregon State, I think, is a game that I have on the fringe of being a yellow game. In fact, looking at it now, put that game in yellow. Just put it in yellow. Imagine it. Change the vision for a second. That Oregon State game is now in yellow. Because I do think Fresno State is going to be able to stay at home here when Oregon State comes into town. And I do think they're going to be able to win that game. The road game against USC is going to be tough, yes. Now, not impossible, because if you saw what Fresno State did last year, they are capable of pulling off an upset or two this year. So going on the road against USC, maybe USC needs a year under Lincoln Riley to get things going. Watch out for Fresno State playing that game. Now, USC should be the favorite and I think is going to win the game, but Fresno State could make things interesting as they did last year. Now, Boise State and San Diego State, the two games in the Mountain West that I'm really looking forward to watching with this Fresno State team. Now, Boise State on the road could be a potential conference championship game preview, and Boise State, I think, is going to bounce back from where they were a season ago. And San Diego State, they're still going to have a really, really good defense. This offense is going to be tested this year, but the offensive needs for San Diego State are going to need to show out this year. And I think Fresno State also has a really good defense and a much better offense than San Diego State, and they get that game at home. When I look at this Fresno State team, guys, I believe I said it earlier, but in case I didn't, I'll say it again. This is a sleeper team to make a New Year's Six bowl game. I have no doubt in my mind that this Fresno State team will be in the conversation late in the season as a team that, can they get to a New Year's Six bowl game and represent the Group of Five conference? I think a lot of things need to happen, but I think it's possible, and I'm really high in this Fresno State team. I got them at 10-2, a double-digit win year for Jeff Tedford, Jake Haener, and company here in 2022. And I do think they can win 11 games this year. Look, they're going to lose a game somewhere down the line. More likely than not, it's going to be that game against USC. That's right above my head. But Boise State, another potential loss. Oregon State, they can lose that game. San Diego State, they can lose that. But I don't see this team doing worse than 8-4, maybe 7-5. I'm really high on the Bulldogs. I really like what this team has, and I like their chances to represent the Mountain West Division when they go play in the conference championship game. That's going to do it for my thoughts on the Fresno State Bulldogs. As you can see, I'm really high on this team. Let me know what you guys think about Fresno State in the comment section below, and please be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Really helps support the channel. Remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. I'll see all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.